YouTube and Rumble. How are you guys doing? I am back to do the U squared. I'm trying to figure out where the heck to put my. Is that better? I guess that might just have to work for now. But I might have to, or I just want to come back to this U squared. Been a minute since I've been in this, so I'm going to do this and try to at least maintain, well, I don't want to speak because I'm afraid that I'm going to have to eat those words, but this looks like I'm mic'd up. But I don't really have that microphone on. But long story short is that I want to come back and do a couple updates. So one is, which nobody's watching, but, and I guess it doesn't matter, but we just hit 2,000 subscribers, so I want to say that I appreciate that because that means that we're doing something right if the channel's growing, and if we're not, then that means that we got to change something. But been a little slower more recently just because I needed some time to collect my thoughts and like be there presently emotionally. I want to be mindful and intentional with what I was doing, but definitely kind of difficult when you feel like you're gassed. So long story short is I'm still tired today. I'm probably almost sick, but I want to figure out, does this feed work for streaming like horizontally, A, and then B, I want to get into this message, but also I'm going to share some stuff from over the weekend talking about men stepping up and avoiding being passive. So that's kind of where we're at. But long story short, I'm going to get into this just so at least it's recorded for the day, and then I'll move on to the next thing. So today, we're going to talk about measuring your words. Just kidding. We are going to think beyond what common sense would allow. Most of us can be found flying too close to the ground. Too often, we don't give ourselves permission to soar. A 10 or 20% improvement isn't the idea at all. That would represent only incremental gains. So I do agree and disagree with this, just because for many people just making a small change is very difficult to do. So I don't want to pretend like even a 1% change would be a lot for somebody, but 10 or 20%, I mean, I don't know. I guess I question this for myself. Like, how much more could I get out of myself if I really focused? Is that even possible? But maybe that's the whole thing, is maybe I'm captive to my own thoughts and beliefs in that essence. So, all right, so let's check this out. It says, it's time to start focusing on possibilities rather than on limits or obstacles. Making quantum leaps means moving outside your mental boundaries. If you will rethink how you're thinking, you can multiply your performance potential. You must let your desires guide you instead of allowing yourself to be boxed in by perceived constraints. So those are those limitations that I would be talking about. Dream in Progress, how's it going, Eric? Speaking of, man, how's your channel going? What have you been up to? And welcome, by the way. But seeking the quantum leap means violating the boundary of probable. It means achieving well beyond the obvious. So don't limit your desires to what you think you can have or can do. Start going after what you want. This means you must give yourself permission to dream, to risk. You must set yourself free. So that's a really interesting thought, because I do believe that we are very captive to our own thoughts, and we put boundaries on ourselves more so than anybody else. I'm good, man. I'm pretty fatigued, but I had a men's retreat over the weekend that was really good, and I'm wearing the hat today. MRM is Mission Ready Men, and so long story short is this is just basically getting us educate, equip, and empower us for what's ahead. And a lot of that is in the spiritual realm, the faith-filled aspect, which It's very limiting on your creativity as well. Yes, exactly, 100%. So it's like, what are we willing to challenge ourselves on to elevate to that next level, right? So let's get into it. I mean, this is also almost halfway done. This is just like a little tiny book, but it's great ideas just for maintaining this train of thought and then trying to implement things one little thing at a time, or all of it all the time. uh, a 20, a 10 or 20% improvement isn't the idea. Although I would still say that's victorious if you can maintain that and implement that as a discipline and hold it. Like if I was able to hold that performance of what I lost weight wise over the last month, then I would be where I want to be in 2 more months or three. I would be perfect and I wouldn't have to do anything else. So maybe, but at the same time, that was a lot larger improvement. That was a 5% improvement is actually what that was. And I even slowed down after the first week or week and a half just because I felt it might be too aggressive. But yeah, Eric, what do you think about the power of now? Because obviously I saw that in you where you did get in and you started your YouTube channel and then you immediately started with it. So I'm curious, uh, which actually Alex Hermosi talks about the statistics of people that are basically trying to do podcasting. So, like in your essence, he says after the first one, 90% of people are done. So that's crazy. So I feel like victorious in the fact that I've just come back. So I haven't failed just by the result of I decided not to. But anyway, as you said, that's your style. Yeah, I'm very much into the power of now. And thank you. I appreciate that, man. I put in some work. Not that it wasn't there, but you could see more of it now that I'm not so heavy. And I think it will start, I mean, you could still see there's still fluff there, but little by little. Or quantum leaps. I might take a quantum leap, we'll see. But so on the idea of a 10 or 20% improvement, it's not the idea. Said that would represent only incremental gains. That might be an impressive performance in some situations, like if there were unusual obstacles or a very difficult set of circumstances. But while such a goal might be challenging, it would not represent a quantum leap. Instead of an additional 10 or 20% or so, a quantum leap produces a dramatic and a multiple gain, an exponential increase. Quantum leaps are, by definition, rather astounding, certainly unconventional. So that would be a great idea, is if you were going to take a unconventional leap, how would you do it? Eric, you said I always had a lot of projects going on already. I saw people showing more interest and let go of my perfectionism. That is a huge key because you will be bound to that. And a lot of people have asked me, like, Kyle, how come, like, why don't you just perfect that before moving on? And it's like, well, that perfection is it's slavery to the end result. Now, if it's something that will yield a reward that's worth that sacrifice or that finish, then master the skill, master the craft. But I think many things, like how good can you mow a yard, right? Before, I mean, if maybe you end up, yeah, you could take a quantum leap if somebody's like, man, that guy gets down on his hands and knees and then he goes along with the scissors to trim it, make sure that it's level, maybe there's a market for that, but maybe there's not. Or maybe that it's such a wide distance away from where you want to go that, or maybe you don't have that goal in mind to be a world's best lawn mowing master, right? There's a sweet spot on where you put the bar. I totally agree with that. Like for me on the scooter, it's like I'm not aspiring to be world's best scooter builder, but I do want it to be functional. I want it to have longevity, and I want people to be interested in what we're doing enough to watch the next project. And maybe as we do more on the execution side, maybe we get more opportunity on the other side to build more projects, which, I mean, right now I have projects lined up. So we have that Honda Accord that I did the short on. Having a really hard time with getting that axle nut off, but it will happen. Doesn't need to be perfection. I've broke 2 breaker bars already, and so I'm gonna try some penetrating oil and then maybe some heat on it. But you can never keep raising the bar, however, or you can keep raising the bar. However, if you want to reach it, it's not that motivating, and you'll end up in a vicious cycle. Yes, exactly. I think I do need to use heat, but yeah, you're right. And so it's like, raising the bar is, I think it's really important in some aspects and definitely not in others. But that's where you have to be able to decide what is worth it and what's not. So don't get the idea that absolutely anything you can think of is possible. It isn't. But in some areas of your life, what lies within your reach is enough to stagger the mind. You can double your level of success, triple it, far beyond that. You can leverage up in your performance to the second or third or fourth power or beyond. So we were talking about that too, and the idea is also what is success. So you have to define that for yourself. For me, I would say like I quantify and qualify it on 6 pillars. And so that's what is my faith, family, friends, fitness, and finances, and my fun look like. And then I can kind of gauge that. And so I've been really trying to like drill down on how am I going to quantify that? Because there are certain things where I'm like, it's hard to quantify your faith. And it's not about going through the motions. A lot of it's relationship, but I do, like for me, if I'm not in my Bible every day, then I'm failing. If I'd say it's like a grading system, right? If I'm in my Bible 90+% of the time, that's A minus on the lower end. 80% and up is a B, right? And so on and so forth. But fun, you could tell, right, in your mood if you're positive and upbeat because you have things to look forward to. But if you don't, then I think we get into that other side of the thing where we're like, why am I doing this? And what is the end goal if all I am is just toiling in the field, right? Yeah. So you're right, getting started, and ball in motion wants to stay in motion, but if you don't have any momentum, then that creates a heavier push. But if you already have things leaning in your favor, then I think that you're going to continue to lean into that a little bit more so. So for me, that means just like my buddy loses his mind watching me do this, but I think I learned it from this business where I just push things forward like an inch or two, but I don't do that with like 3 things. I do that with like 100, and so I'm sharing that with my channel so you can kind of see that at work. But yeah, it does turn into chores, and even fun. Yeah, fun turns into chores too. Yeah, and 100 inches, right? And people don't know what's the resistance on the other side of the inch, right? Are you pushing against 100 pounds of force to move that? It could even be like pushing a car. That's thousands of pounds. It has wheels, but it's the little bits of momentum that get it to the next step. So right now I have, the property that I have going, YouTube channel here, and then I have the YouTube channel for financial planning. But then I have 3 books that I'm reading, and then, the little real estate, the Cowboy Land Project. So same for you, Eric, in that essence. And film it, man, because a lot of people need that hope and encouragement to see how to take the next step. And you might be the only one that's, appealing to them just because all of our stories are so unique. I mean, the algorithm's probably feeding me to DIY guys, but also to Bible study, and so a little bit of that. Oh, you did good job, dude. High five for making a video. Um, I'd say just, set a bar for yourself. Um, I saw a couple up there. So for me, it's, I think I did 500 videos last year. So all I want to do is I want to improve the quality and I want to improve the quantity. But if I'm going to do a quantum leap, then those things have to be way better because the content I produce hasn't been enough to really elevate me into like what would you say, viral territory. Maybe like projects like digging the sewer pipe could have led me there, but also could have led me to an early death, and I'm not interested in that. As much as I want to see Jesus or find out if he's real, right? Um, so true, there are limits, but you don't need to worry about them. Your real limits are far beyond your artificial mental boundaries. The real limits won't bother. Sorry, I was getting a call. Man, my phone vibrate here. I don't know if I like. Is streaming horizontally any better? I don't know if it is or not, but um, so those limits are very interesting to think about because I think we have this tendency to think other people don't deal with that stuff, so we don't look at it. Limits on time. I mean, we all have the same 24 hours in the day, right? There could be financial limits, right? So how do you overcome that in a creative aspect, right? Um, there could be skills, right? You don't have the skills to do something, but that could be part of the journey too. Uh, you have the same. I have projects I should have recorded, however I didn't, but I just keep going. And if people find you that, right, it's the process. It's not the journey. Like everybody wants to start off at 1 million subscribers on YouTube, but the reality is none of us do. We start out slow, and it takes a lot of time until we get that momentum built up. And then we're there, and everybody's like, how did you do it? And I think that that's with everything or most things that people want to do is all of the hard work is done behind the scenes. It's 99, maybe even 99.9. You could think about that like a doctor. They don't just turn into a doctor, they go to school for, I don't know, 12, 16. I guess it depends how you count the years of time, but it's a lot of school. Same with anything else. But so, in that essence, I would ask you that too, Eric. What are your limitations since you're responding in here, which I appreciate, by the way? Um, so, the real limits won't box you in, but the false ones you're carrying around in your mind are a self imposed prison. And I like comparing that to my own thoughts, right? Because I know who built the prison, right? So if you know the engineer, it's going to be much easier to break outside of that prison, right? Or the construction crew that put it together. Rome wasn't built in a day. No, not at all. And actually, you would love seeing this castle. I don't know if you saw that yet, but I explored a castle yesterday coming back from my men's retreat. And that guy built it over at least 40 years, I'm sure. My mom remembers hearing stories that he would ride his bike from another city. I think it was like probably close to an hour away, and in a car, it was an hour away, and he would ride down there on his bike and start building this castle. Um, you check the video, dude, it's so cool. Not saying that it's safe. It's definitely not built up the code, but it's awesome. Um, so I mean, it's just one stone at a time. He's welding one piece of wrought iron at a time, and so that stuff just doesn't happen. Same way with fitness. You don't just go in and have a killer day in the gym. It's killer days, weeks, months, and years in the gym. And oddly enough, it's funny because the eating produces faster results. But why didn't I not clean that up sooner? Um, safe is very rarely fun. What's up, Ahmed? How are you doing, bro? I saw briefly your little. We got to celebrate. So 10 high fives for all y'all. 2K subscribers. I appreciate everybody for chipping in on that. Today is the Eid, and yeah, oh yeah, that's right. I think that's what Bob Isaac said to me. So here's the question: how do we get out of the jail? How do we get out of the prison that we built? And so there's one, we can deconstruct it ourselves, but also to surrender. So in this aspect, I mean, I could compare this to sin that I've dealt with, which is ties into what I was just going up to this retreat about, was talking about passivity and letting the enemy in and letting the enemy win. And I think that that's by men. We don't we don't step up, but we want to wrestle that alligator, so we don't let go. And so for me, if you're not a believer, then that would be one of the hard things. I don't know how to instruct you to surrender on that level, or who to surrender to. But for me, it's the belief that God can come in and his ways are higher than mine, so he can take over that burden of sin. Um, so you're gonna eat, yeah, definitely some pictures of the food. I actually need to go get some ingredients. So if I could try to do some meal prep. Although I do have some of the other stuff that you sent me too. Although if you're listening to this, then I'm trying to clean up my diet, so it's got to be healthy as well. Um, did you celebrate Eid with us? I guess we did. It's kind of funny that I did that. I did my 30-day health challenge, which was kind of in essence like a fast. I mean, here's this is part of my lunch, and then breakfast was a little bit of this almond butter with some bananas, and I still have two left. Um, I did great, but I did prematurely celebrate at the men's retreat, but that's because there was some good food there. So, is that popcorn? Oh no, that's a sesame Asian salad. It's just pre-packaged. I'm supposed to be avoiding plastic, but I didn't. So yeah, and even now I'm drinking out of that's that's not coconut rum. That's water. But supposedly the plastic causes leaching into your what you're drinking. So I'm trying to avoid that as well. But so it says you have to forfeit some of your old beliefs and sacrifice some of those sensible thinking patterns. So called common sense can be a curse that puts a ceiling on how far you can reach or how high you can fly. And I've seen that a lot over time. I actually used to reverse engineer or engineer like parts that made your cars fast. And so I started breaking out of my conventional thought pattern that maybe instead of just buying the stuff and focusing on not having the money to do it, I ended up coming up with the idea of how I can allow other people into that as well, so that they could participate in making their car fast also. So that knowledge isn't for us to just hold to ourselves so nobody else can benefit. But I believe we're supposed to share that and be good stewards of doing that. Um, you see that in people around you and it frustrates you. Are you talking about the just sticking with their beliefs and like holding on to them? It's kind of like we're white knuckling it, right? And so I will actually get into that too with like the some of the other spiritual warfare stuff too. Uh, yeah, they don't use their full potential. So in that, I don't know if you saw that, Eric. With I'm having this conversation with my buddy that he's an unbeliever, and so we're talking about that, and so that's one of the big issues with. So this guy was talking about how a lot of Christians will wait on God to basically do everything for them. I don't believe we're supposed to do that. I believe that God gave us a mind and a body and the ability to work through that stuff. So I feel like those people aren't using or stewarding their talents. So Talents in that biblical reference was like a monetary thing, but now talents is like a skill set thing or abilities. Um, yeah, definitely not only Christians. It is everybody. It really is. And so like, um, his guy was just like, oh well, Christians believe that God's just going to step in and do it, but it's like I don't believe that. I believe God's going to come down on me and be like, dude, Kyle, I gave you a voice and a mind and a body, and what did you do with it, right? So it's like you're supposed to use it, man. Um, there's 100%. Ahmed says exactly. Eric, there's nothing I can do anyway. Yeah, exactly. That whole um, Ahmed, I'm on the way to Islam. I think the whole thing is just like as you are continuing down that road. I mean, Ahmed, it's like that correlation. So you'll see this very close. Like um, I'm on my deep dive spiritually, anyways. So like this is just kind of taking people with me, and it's for me. I want to understand first and foremost, why did my parents teach me this belief system? Because it has served me well, but am I confined in ways that aren't beneficial? Or are most of those ways beneficial and I just don't understand how to articulate them or explain them in depth? And I can't, maybe I'm at a loss for words or my vocabulary is limited. The road to the true God, as I like to call it. Well, exactly. And that's the great debate, right? So, what am I next? So I have this book, which is like that thick, but I have that, and then I have my 2 Bible studies that I'm working through. But I do want to go through. I have this other Bible study queued up for you, Ahmed, where it'll discuss Islam and Christianity, and like kind of compare and contrast. So I don't know. I just find this stuff fascinating. So let's do it, man. Men. 85% of our audience is men, so I'm speaking to 85% men, but women too. Women are called to step up in, I believe, their femininity, and men in their masculinity. And I believe, well, our conference talk and our pastor spoke about toxic masculinity, and he doesn't believe that it's a thing, but it can obviously be. There can be masculinity out of the way that God intended. Same with femininity, and I don't believe that those roles are supposed to stay where the Creator put them. Right? Believe that Christianity and Islam are 80% alike. It might even be higher than that, honestly. And so it's interesting. So Ahmed, I've been going down the rabbit hole of apologetics and biblical apologetics, which just means like to create a defense in of the Bible. And so there's this guy, Wesley Huff. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he debates Billy Carson, who is he believes in God, but not the biblical God. And then he's looked at all these other texts. But Wesley Huff gets into it and explains all of these differences as to why we believe what we believe. Of course, believing is not knowing. There's just indications of, you could call them partial pieces of evidence. Um, and I find it fascinating. So, believe that that's kind of what we're supposed to do. I mean, honestly, in my mind, Jesus wasn't religious at all. So I don't believe that we're supposed to be religious. It's more about the heart posture and the relationship, rather than the religious aspect. But here in America, people that will say they're spiritual and not religious, it means something different typically. So spiritual means like they're kind of bringing in this whole everything else. So like, um, in the essence of, sorry, I read your comment, Eric, and it just distracted me. Just because they lag the conversation a little bit, But yeah, the toxic masculinity or basically insecurities are surfacing. Exactly. And maybe instead of us leading through example, or, and I've been guilty of this too, where I'm like, nope, Justice, you're doing this. Sometimes that needs to be a necessity, but not always is it the way to do things, right? Um, but Ahmed says, yeah, and healthy doubt is necessary to maintain a strong belief. I agree with that because if you don't ever question, then you're never going to dig deeper. And I think that that's the problem is the assumption. That's most people's issue is they assume that they know the answers or they assume that it's like it's so far off in the distance, it doesn't even matter. And it's like I think I think you're wrong. I think you need to explore that because as we I mean, biblically, it's like the comparison of a thief coming in the night. It's not like you actually know, and a thief doesn't give you a heads up, hey, I'm gonna rob your house tonight. It's like be prepared for when that does happen, right? You'll never grow and expand your horizon. Exactly. And I think that it also gives me a healthy understanding of appreciating the other side. So in the unbelief aspect, I can really respect this guy or Eric, your perspective, if that's the camp that you're in. Um, I mean, we all make our personal choice, and it's never going to be one person that's like, you have to believe this, and they can force you into believing it. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? So, um, exactly. By the way, did Nicole celebrate Eid? No, no, she didn't. But she's off at the vet right now. Her dog has Prairie has sore paws, so she's trying to take care of her dog. She treats that dog great. Um, so-called common sense can be a curse that puts a ceiling on how far we reach or how high we fly. U squared, the quantum leap strategy, is based on uncommon sense. So I'm curious, how are we going to implement that, fellas or ladies, if you're listening? Um, her dog she thinks some sort of like yeast or some sort of infection in the paws that are like causing it to dry out. Could be like I've seen that in like bacterial things, kind of like a athlete's foot or something like that. Um, so that's a terrible lie to call in sick. Well, the thing is, she was already here, so she told me, she's like, "Hey, do you mind if I take my dog to the vet? I'm gonna have to take a long lunch." And I was like, "That's fine." So she's been great. My dog had that too. It turned out to be an autoimmune thing. Interesting. They give you some sort of medication or like an ointment. And not my watch. I wouldn't let her go. What would you do with the dog? You'd just be like, you gotta. The problem with the 9 to 5 job is that you don't have that freedom. So it's like it's more difficult. So I have to be willing to give a little bit of freedom. But I think if you had your way, you'd probably like handcuff her to the desk over here. uh, Gave her CBD weed and it worked. Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna tell her that too and see. I don't know what they're gonna suggest, so I guess we'll just find out. But um, this one is gonna be good too. Suspend disbelief. Does this show backwards on the film? It looks like it does. So, guys, I'm gonna wrap up, and then I'm gonna come back in with write them out. So I'm gonna end this one, and then do you guys want to do the Book of Daniel or the Come and See the Cowboy one? Uh, CBD is like you could explain it better, probably Eric, but it's basically like a derivative of weed, and so it's used for medical. It's used for medical utilization, like a lot of times sleep, relaxation, but it also supposedly has healing properties. Um, I've tried CBD. Like I've never done weed, but I use CBD, which it doesn't. It is the non-psychoactive substance in marijuana. Yeah, it's not real weed, so it wouldn't do anything mind altering. It might relax you, but not like smoking marijuana. So, all right, guys. So maybe I'll go grab my salad since Ahmed keeps telling me to talk and eat. But I enjoyed this one, so I'm gonna come back and get into this one next. Why don't you just get a new dog? Oh, that's probably honestly how you guys do it over there, Ahmed. I don't want to know what happens to the old dogs. Eating salad is the worst. You don't like it, or you don't think it's healthy. Because honestly, I've had some great results with it, but it does bother my energy. You got to film that. Film catching a chicken, man. As dogs are considered filthy. Well, a lot of dogs are dirty, but this one is very well taken care of. Maybe like as well as most humans. She, I think she's bathed and like brushed almost daily. But anyways, guys, I'm gonna hop off because I'm just chattering. But let me get back on with the Book of Daniel, and then I do want to give you guys the update real quick before I pop off of here. But so in terms of what's happening with my property project is I actually have to find a structural or a design engineer, and I have to have them basically approve my trailers so that my trailers are stated to be on the right foundation, that they have the proper spacing of the joists and the, what do they call them, headers and all of that, like the windows, the doors, and the insulatory properties are what they need so people don't freeze to death, essentially. Although I think that they're pretty well insulated from, I've slept out there in the winters inside of those things and they've been pretty good. But the hot sauce and the mayo, that actually sounds pretty good. I don't think I have the hot sauce and mayo. At a room, you could have your own trailer when you get here, dude. So anyways, I'm going through the process. I've inquired with 2 design and structural engineers. Make sure that the mechanical for like HVAC is up to code, as well as what's the other one? Plumbing and electrical. So we'll see, maybe it can help, but it is cool. It's exciting. Part of the problem is like I don't have enough information on these trailers to get to the next step. But basically what they would say is that like if I have what do they call them, there's some identifying information that would essentially pop up that would be on like the electrical box or the tongue of the trailer, and it would say if they were inspected by the state or whatnot. So I have to go through that process before I continue to build, and I want to make sure I'm not wasting my money by putting good supplies and time into the building before. I mean, like there's things here like lead and asbestos that could turn up in the property. Yeah, OMG, that would be amazing. I can't wait for you to get the approval and start the project. It's going to be pretty cool, that property. And I mean, Ahmed, I told Eric earlier, did you see that castle? I've mentioned this before, but I don't know if I actually mentioned it on here, but I have wanted to build a castle out on my property, but I would need to live out there to make that a feasible and a viable thing, and I'd have to do it a little bit different than the way that the other guy had done it in that video. But you'll see that thing is certainly not up to code, so it's pretty dangerous. You saw the goat video. Uh, and Eric can stay for a sleepover. Yeah, I mean honestly, so I believe I'm legally allowed to have 2 houses, but I have 4 trailers, and if I turn 2 into one house and 2 into another, then yeah, if you guys ever want to come over and hang out, it would be fun. There'll be some time out in the country, and you can help me with the homestead ideas, Eric. Um, I have to be careful with the bonfire because I had one. I actually think I have videos up of my bonfire, or a bonfire that we did with my accountant, and she had like a whole bunch of fire trucks come out there because she didn't get approval, and it's actually only allowed to be 3 by 5 feet, but we could probably get creative with that 3 by 5 feet. Um, the goat. So what happened is that the goats get in the vehicles because they know that there's food in there, and so that they've in essence been trained just to get up inside of the trucks. Um, and they do it apparently frequently. Bonfire with white food that melts. The white is that cheese. And I'll do the barbecue. Okay, I'm down. Yeah, the goat. Yeah, the goat actually got in the front seat first, and it crawled over, which I'm sure is not like that lady called her husband and was talking about the goat. She's like, "Would you be mad if I told you there's a goat in your truck?" I actually had to pull the goat out of the truck because nobody else was gonna grab it. Um, don't worry, I'll press charges against anyone that interrupts your food. Well, so you have to talk to my neighbor. He's from a place here where he likes to argue and he thinks he's getting something out of it, but you have a design for a smokeless burn barrel. That's pretty cool. I thought I might also design my property in a way of which people didn't see as much of the fire. So it wouldn't be like people would call it in and it'd be a big, huge issue. Um, that would be cool. Mr. Kyle, what's the name of that white food that you melt in the fire and eat it? Oh, you're thinking marshmallows. I thought he was talking about cheese. Goats can do serious damage to your interior. I would imagine they could because those between the hooves and the horns, and they like to headbutt stuff. I wouldn't want a horn in my or a goat in my truck, that's for sure. But all right, if you guys are on, give me a minute. I'm gonna end this video and just start another one, just so that way I can get my rabbit food ready, and I'll get the next book ready, and then we'll come back. So they eat nose off your or the knobs off your radio. That's great. Yeah, I would imagine you would know. You have a couple of them. Do the live in shorts. Oh, it did this. This didn't show up in shorts. So I think that's the problem. Is the orientation of the screen thinks that I'm in the long format. So that was actually a great observation that you made, because that was my suspicion, is when it's sideways, I'm not showing up in the main feed. So, all right, fair enough. So let me do that, and I'll turn myself long ways, and then I'll be right back for you fellas. So I know, well, you deserve a pay raise when we can figure out how to send you some money. All right, guys. Much love, and it won't push it in the vertical live if it's horizontal. Yeah, that was my thought. So my buddy suspected that, the one from the Awesome Life podcast. So it's good to know that that is still the more diamonds for now. Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll have to make sure that I can afford diamonds before you do that. But let me know. I might have some dollar bills on there for you. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna chat with you in a minute. I'm gonna go make a mess of this. All right, love y'all. Bye bye.